Hello everybody, I am Dr. Farhan Zamir, an adjunct professor and academic specialist at Biotechnica, Bangalore. Today, we would try to discuss another important topic, and this is on writing a good research paper. Now, many a times our students, they say, sir, I have finished my wet lab or dry lab, but how do I write it? Because writing is a skill what you need to develop. And normally, this does not come overnight. What are the tips which could be adapted so that I can improve my writing? Let's look into it. Come. Welcome back. So for today, what we are trying to understand is how do I write a good research paper? Now, please remember, research has been done with practicality and not with emotions. I do understand as a passionate researcher, you have a lot of emotions with your research. And many times, the kind of research what I do is very, very close to my heart. But, you know, whenever the reader reads it, he reads with his open mind, and hence the practicality of the research topic is much more higher than the emotions. So the major hurdle when we look into writing a research paper is, let us try to divide this, for our better understanding. So 50% of the job is actually designing your research and then executing your research and then having your various kinds of models which can actually justify your hypothesis. Your research question is being answered. You have adapted various kinds of methodology to get an observable results, and then with all those things you have discussed a particular topic. But however, very importantly is finally, how do you put it? How do you narrate it as a document which is readable, which is understandable, and this becomes a prime criteria, and this documentation is nothing but your good research paper. Let's try to look into the details of it. Now, before I tell you the entire pipeline of how exactly research paper has been published, so many a times what we look into is the history of publishing. Now, if I go back into somewhere around, 1660s or so, there, research was very secretly done. Okay, in times of Aristotle or Plato, okay, or, ancient times wherein Aristotle Socrates were trying to do certain amount of research, everything was being done in a secretive manner, and this was being opened up only for their own disciples. Okay, again with a great amount of trust and secrecy, this was being done with a knowledge transfer from the guru, from the mentor to the mentees. Okay, this was the thing which was being followed in 1665. But later, when we looked into the next component, wherein as the technology got advanced, then came your typewriter. So in a typewriter, wherein people were typing and then with a closed encrypted messages or on a postal note, this was being sent. Then finally, in 1970, here comes the electronic technology, that's the computer, which made most of the manuscript which were handwritten to a digital system. And finally, thanks to 1980 and continuing even now, so it is all the electronic transmission wherein whatever is being written, which was digitalized, and whatever was digitalized is now on www, that is World Wide Web. So anybody in the entire world at any point of time, they are able to access the research or the research work which has been published any part of the world. Now, in 2014, a breakthrough happened in publication wherein until now it was only the textual images which were being incorporated in the manuscript, and from 2014 there is visual media, there is an animated figures, animated videos which have been also been incorporated into manuscripts which can explain or which can create awareness and much more understanding onto the reader. And one such video journal okay, which publishes just a video, and that is again in a format of a research paper, which also has an impact factor, is called as JOVE, JOVE. I want you people to go look into it, and the link will be given into the description. Then, coming back to the topic. Now, if I want to write a research paper, I need to be very, very precise, and I should know what am I writing. Because as a researcher, I might be knowing so many things, but it is not necessary that I need to put all my emotions into the paper and create confusion onto the reader. So I need to categorize my research into various streams, and then the entire aim and scope of the research journal and my research paper has to actually match. So this is an important component. Otherwise, many a times, I have a good piece of work, and putting into a wrong journal which does not fit in the aim and scope of the journal will simply lead into rejection. So let us try to see what are the various subjects or the various phases in a research publication depending on the aim and scope. The first and the foremost is, as we already know, it is the fundamental and basic research and research methodologies which have been adapted. The next one is you have the applied research. The third one is your exploratory research. Then you have descriptive research, then action research, then very importantly, policy-oriented research. Then you have correlational research, then you have explanatory research, then longitudinal research, and finally you have the clinical research. So all these are the various kinds of phases or various categories of research one can publish their research article. Now, what is the scientific method? Okay, so normally when I look into or when I am trying to put up a research paper, I need to ask certain questions, or I need to justify my concept, okay, or the reason for me taking up this particular research or writing this particular research paper. Now, from where does this research paper come from? Remember, most of the researchers, okay, the research would have emerged because of their observations. So observation is the key, and this is how most of the research comes into picture. So once I observe, I am able to identify the problem, and then I will ask, how do I solve this? So once I observe, the next component is asking questions, asking why questions, okay, or how questions. Okay, then comes your, literature search. Whether somebody has already answered the questions what I am asking, okay, so I do a thorough literature search. Now, if the answer is yes, or partially yes, or it is no, what you do is how exactly you can align your concepts, your research question with the previously asked, or how different is your research question from the previously known literature. So then you develop your hypothesis. Okay, hypothesis is a key role. Most of the times whenever we do, at Biotecnika, we do a lot of internships. At that point of time, I put up a lot of emphasis on, hypothesis building, because this is the heart of the entire research. Now, if you do not have an hypothesis, whatever you do is, it is out of the frame, and you are still standing in a junction. You don't know where to go. So this should not happen in research, because this can lead into non-conclusive data. Then once you have your hypothesis, the next thing is, what are the experiments what I can perform so that I can answer my research question? And then with my experimentation, I get a lot of information on the data which has been collected, and with the data, how do I conclude? What are my conclusions? Many times, we are with more emotions, we are trying to put up more of the story so that the person or the reader gets, distracted. So there should be always a good flow. Okay, from paragraph to paragraph, there should be, a continuity of the flow. There should be, the story should actually tempt the readers to read more. And then you need to share your data. Okay, share your results. Very importantly, now is the data revolution, and very importantly, many a times we put up just one figure and try to tell, okay, this is what had happened. People are now looking for the raw data. Okay, so as supplementary figures, I would always appreciate if you can share your raw data. And then finally, with all your research, what is the interventions which were made? And again, with those interventions, what are the new questions which were being asked? So this would act as a future perspective for the new researchers, or the same group of researchers to take up in the next frame of the work. So This entire thing of scientific method is in short called as IMRAD. Okay, it is called as IMRAD. Okay, that is, I is introduction, M is methodology, R is results and discussion. So you should have all these components in your research paper. Now, how do I start writing? Okay, so please remember, this is a toughest job. If you consider executing research as around 30% or 40%, writing becomes much more important. Trust me, my dear friends, I have known good researchers who have done extraordinarily well in terms of their wet lab and dry lab, but because of their lack in scientific writing, okay, most of the results did not come from the bench onto the paper. Okay, they did not come into as a publication, and most of the data just went off as just as a stale data. Now, if you do not publish at a particular time when it is an hot cake, okay, people after some point of time, nobody wants to read an older newspaper. Okay, if you want to sell the newspaper, it should be current. It should have advanced things wherein people will get connected onto it. Nobody would like to have a stale data to be read. So remember, for writing your research paper, again, there are various formats in which you can write. I would try to explain few formats. The classical format is writing a review. Okay, so writing a review is many a times it has been confused or it has been misled to summarize 200 papers or 100 papers, and then you are trying to put up a paper. This is not a review. So please remember, you need to come up with a lot of innovations with the current research which has been done. You will come up with a lot of innovation which will explain the new dimension, new paradigm shift in the research what you are trying to propose, and this is what a review article is being expected with. Then comes the original article. You have designed something, you have asked new questions, and with that new questions you are trying to publish. You have done certain methodologies, and then you are trying to publish your research, and this is called as original article. Now, just imagine, I have done around 2 or 3 experiments, but somehow I feel my results are exciting. So rather than this going on to the original article, I would still publish it as a short communication with around 2 to 3 experiments, okay, which gives me an instant backup for the long-term experiments. Okay, so this is called a short communications. Now, apart from that, if you are a bit seasoned or an experienced researcher, so it becomes important that you start writing commentary, or you can also write a letter to the editor, and many a times this will also be considered as a publication. With your experience, you are trying to agree or disagree or refute with the publication which has been published, and then the editor would be the moderator who will moderate between you and the authors, so that a new school of thought would have been emerged. So these are the various formats in which you can actually publish. Now, to start with a research paper, okay, especially the writing component, you need to select a topic. Okay, you need to select a topic, especially if you are writing a review. You need to select a particular topic which would have been an interest, okay, or which is a burning issue in the current scenario. So this becomes very important. Okay, then once you select a topic, then identify the research problem in it, and then collect the relevant data. So here your literature review comes into picture. Please try to do both national status and international status review, which will help you in actually strengthen your review process. Okay, then once you have the data, you can go on to analyzing the data. Most of the softwares have been available, and one such the analysis what you can do is called as a meta-analysis software, meta-analysis, wherein there are a lot of tools and softwares which have been available, which can strengthen your data. Once you have all this on your hand, finally start writing your paper. Okay, and once you write your paper, please make sure you give it for proofreading for either native English speakers or somebody who can have positive or a negative critic on your paper. So remember, people who criticize, do not take them as enemies. Okay, please take them as your supporters, because with their experience, they just want to improve the quality of the paper. This will help you from not getting rejected. So these are few tips. And then what are the major guidelines? So the major guidelines is you need to always have a unique style of writing, and this will only come with experience. I would not tell the fresh researchers to start developing your own style, but however this comes with certain point of experience, and after some after maybe once you publish around 10 to 15 manuscripts, a particular style would get generated, and I want you people to adapt this particular style which becomes unique. Then have a clear understanding of the contents. Okay, so whatever you're trying to envisage, make sure first of all you are clear about it, because many a times we start with a topic and then we get deviated, we get distorted, and then there's absolutely no conclusion. So just make sure you are very clear with your content. Okay, then comes, don't try to be emotional. Okay, many a times when we see young researchers, they become emotional with their writing and they use redundant sentences. Many a times it is with the grammar. Okay, so just make sure you can read and rewrite your paper so that you can improve the quality of the paper. It is not necessary that you write the entire stretch of the paper in 1 or 2 days, because this is simply not possible. So what you need to do is write paragraph by paragraph, then and where when it has been executed, just make sure you write 1 paragraph a day. Okay, and by the time you finish all your wet lab studies, okay, you already have a draft of it, and then you can do the tweaking part of it. Okay, then always have develop an in-depth knowledge on the subject. So don't be superficial. Okay, just don't read 1 or 2 papers and then try to conclude. Just make sure you have an in-depth knowledge on it. Then also because everybody wants creativity and innovation. So tell the authors, or tell the readers or the mentors or the reviewers that what is that? Why should I read your paper? Okay, and why should I invest my time in reading a paper if there is no innovation, if there is no creativity? It is simply waste of time. So just make sure, okay, many a times you need to follow a rule which is called as RRR. Okay, RRR is the reliability, reproducibility, and rapidity in which your procedure, your research question could be addressed. So it could be rapid, reliable, and reproducible data. Then also put up a lot of emphasis in adapting 2 or 3 different types of experiments to prove a same concept. Example, if you're talking about something on antioxidant, just make sure you perform 2 or 3 assays which can actually help the backing up of the concept which is called as antioxidant. Please do not do 1 experiment on antioxidant, example DPPH or a FRAP assay or something, and then you say, okay, my molecule is having antioxidant activity. Do not just conclude. My request is you need to repeat it at least minimally thrice with triplicate data at 3 independent experiments, and also make sure you have 3 different types of experiments which are being executed to prove the same concept. Now moving on forward, okay, you need to also have a strict rule which has to be followed during publication, because publication, when somebody is writing their article, they are actually putting their brainchild onto the paper, so that property belongs to them, and this strongly comes under IPR, that is intellectual property rights. And many times if it is a picture, if it is a methodology, then it also comes under copyrights. So just make sure you do not copy it, or you do not be a part of plagiarism. Then very importantly, read, reread, and reread your manuscript before sending into the journal, because if you don't read your paper, how do you expect others to read your paper? So just make sure you tweak it in the best of the best way which is possible. Finally, we need to follow the following steps for scientific writing. Very importantly, for the creation of the research paper, okay, many a times there is something which is called as writer's block. Okay, that procrastination becomes one of the major thing. Then, I have done my experiment. Maybe tomorrow I will start writing the paper. That tomorrow will become day after tomorrow, and that tomorrow will be another tomorrow. And many a times, okay, after that, with the passage of time, that will dilute your experiments, that will dilute your observation, that will dilute your results. At one point of time, you just become very, very normal. Rather you started your research with great enthusiasm and great interest, and after some point of time, the peak actually declines. So never allow that particular point to happen. So just make sure you always have the energy of activation higher, and with that energy of activation, publish your data, and that gives you a thrill, and it will give you a lot of motivation to publish another paper or do a better research. Then very importantly, review your paper. So give it to your co-workers, give it to your friends, or give it to your mentors, or somebody who can actually help you in improvising the quality of the paper. Then always follow the publication flow, because every article, every journal, they have their own style, and this, you would see this from the journal guidelines, which is called as guidelines for the authors. Okay, and please read it. It is not just your science. Please read the rules and regulations which have been laid down by the journal. Okay, and this will actually help you in not getting the paper rejected. And follow the author's instruction. And then very importantly, text editing. Okay, I have seen, I am a reviewer for many of the national and international journals. What I see is, many a times the paper is so feebly written, even there is a spelling mistake or the incorrect grammar in the title slide, when in the title line, in the tagline itself, the spelling is wrong. This actually makes the reviewer sad or saddened. This is because when the authors, they themselves are not interested. Okay, so why do I read it? So normally what we do is we just reject these kind of papers rather than putting a lot of time. If by any chance, if the paper quality is good, okay, what we do is how do I still improvise it so that a lot of information in terms of data could be dissipated into the society, because we don't know who can actually get benefited out of it. And hence we make sure all the checklist during the submission has to be attended. And then where do I publish? Very, very big question. Okay, for this, maybe we will try to put up a new video. We'll design a new video that I have an article, but where do I publish it? So there are certain tools. Example, Elsevier has a beautiful tool which will suggest you which is the suitable journal, and this is called as Journal Finder. So I would appeal to you that please go and use Journal Finder. It only requires the keyword, the title and the abstract, and this will give you the suitability according to the artificial intelligence which has been picked up. It will tell you the suitability of the paper and the journal where exactly it can get fit in. Then finally, fine-tune your paper. Very, very important. Fine-tune your paper from top to bottom. It is not just the title, it is not just the introduction, but from the first letter to the last letter, just make sure you give 100% of your attention, even for the full stop, for a period, for a comma, for a exclamatory mark, okay, for a question mark. All these punctuations, everything is being noted, because before the editor looks into it, all these journals are being AI integrated. So AI, the algorithm itself will decide whether this particular paper has to be sent to the editor or not. Otherwise, it will automatically send you a regret email. So just make sure you do not become a part of it. And before you start, make sure you have a framework, you design a structure for your paper, and many a times you get deviated from your, as you keep on writing with the flow, you get deviated. Make sure you do not get deviated, and make good quality pictures, make good quality tables, wherein a lot of 1,000 words could be concised with one figure. So just make sure you put in all your efforts in designing good quality images, and as far as possible, please do not copy images from others. Okay, there's a beautiful freely available tool which is called as BioRender, which will enable you to design pictures of your own. You do not need to be a highly proficient a graphic designer to do this. A basic knowledge, and you have a lot of tutorial. We will also try to put up a tutorial on how to use BioRender, so that this can help you in designing tables and figures. Then very importantly, write the entire structure of your IMRAD, and once you have done it, please try to conclude and also give the future prospects, what you have not covered and what you think that it would be important for the other researchers to actually do it. Finally, the ethics part, very, very, very important. Okay, so I would not go into the details of the research and publication ethics, but please remember, make your research original. This is your brainchild. Please make it original. Do not copy, because now there are so many tools which can actually, red-handedly, they can identify which picture has been copied. Do not become the, do not become a part of all these kind of legalities, data fabrication, manipulation, okay, not taking up consult, then some duplication in submission of data. All these things can lead into a lot of problems. This can become a black mark in your research career, okay. And also can attract a lot of legalities towards a researcher, and it's a humble request that this is a big no. Please do not do all these things when you're actually pursuing your research. Okay, done. Now, normally what's the entire research procedure? When you're writing an article, please write your methodology is the most easiest part. So please write your methodology first. Do not settle on the title. And remember, perfection is weakness. So if you're trying to keep on perfecting your manuscript in the initial part of the time, this can actually consume a lot of your time. Just make sure you emphasize on methodology, materials and methods first, because you already know it. And once you know it, then you have, with that methodology, you would have developed certain figures and tables, and with that figures and tables you try to write your observation and results. And once this has been done, then write your introduction part, and then finally write your abstract part. I have seen researchers who would start writing an abstract first, which will take them nowhere. So it's a humble request, just make sure that you write this particular pipeline, and this will actually help you. Please try it out, and then leave a comment saying that whether this particular methodology actually helped you or not. With this, my dear friends, this is what I wanted to tell you in a nutshell. So any point of time, if you people feel that we at Biotecnika can help you out, we can assist you out, we are with open hands. We welcome all your suggestions. And if you require any kind of a specific kind of information, please let us know, so that we can create new content, so that this might be helpful for your research career. All the very best. Thank you very much.